Well, we thought week 6 was just going to be kind of a non-region week. Some teams taking some buys, some teams kind of playing some opponents that maybe you don't get to see all the time. But we got way more than we could have ever imagined in week 6 of the high school football season. This is the Under the Lights podcast presented by KEYSYS. I'm your host, Kyle Parmley, joined today for the second time this season by Mountain Brook play-by-play caller William Galloway. William, do you have any idea why you might have been on the show this week?
Other than, a long list of people turning you down, it's an honor to be here for the second time this season. But obviously, huge play from the Spartans. Yeah. Virality, Spartans going viral over the weekend from a huge play. Nothing of our own doing in the broadcast, but because of the student athletes and program and what they did on the field. Just an incredible moment I know we'll unpack shortly.
Yeah, we sure will. Before we unpack it all, I want to tell you about our presenting sponsor for the Under the Lights podcast this year, KEYSYS. AI is starting to take over the world. It's becoming a part of all of our lives. And KEYSYS is a business that can tailor solutions for anything you've got going on personally or business-wise. KEYSYS.io. AI, big thing. KEYSYS can help you out with that. All right, so William, Friday night, Mountain Brook is dead to rights, and they somehow, some way come out with a 25-24 win in overtime over Homewood. We're going to talk about how we got to this point, but the play itself, I can't even begin to wrap my mind around what we saw, where the snap goes over Caden Hoffbauer's head. He retreats, he picks it up, scrambles around for a minute, throws it all the way to the end zone where Bennett Jordan high points it and hauls it in for the game-winning 2-point conversion. Everybody's stunned. Everybody goes mad. Just kind of take me through that moment as the play-by-play guy, and, were you hopeful? Were you expectant?
Yeah.
Just what was that moment like for you?
So I will start and say that I have a great relationship with Coach Yeager, and we talk every week. We have our own show that we do, and we publish, and we put it on our broadcast and all that. But knowing him and knowing situational football, I'm not saying I'm a scholar by any means, but I know situational football. And in a non-region game on the road in overtime, you're going to go for 2. You're just going to lay your cards all out there. So anyways, Mountain Brook had an overtime call. That's, I think, why I was on the podcast earlier this year in the win over Hueytown, and you thought that was the play of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking there's no way something crazy happens, but it's kind of one of those moments. If you're a fan, you pull your phone out. This might be the moment, right? And you don't really get 2 chances at glory, if you want to call it that, for an overtime, thrilling game-ending call. So we're set up probably straight on with the goal line, the opposite goal line at Homewood High School. Our crew was set up there. We had 2 cameras. So Wayne Ingram, who I call the games with, we're 125 yards away from the play. The band is playing, all of our parents, and we're standing behind our band. So our band is, the tubas and trumpets and everything are everywhere. So I've got my binoculars, and I get my binoculars on, and I'm looking, and I'm trying to follow the ball just to make sure I get the accurate call. I know all of our guys. I'm going to get our names right. And the snap goes over Hoffbauer's head. So immediately your stomach sinks, and it's that moment of pit and despair. And I kind of equate it to the 2017 national championship where Tua got sacked on first down, bringing a 2nd and 26, that turn of emotion. So Hoffbauer runs back to get it, and I kind of had to set the scene. Wayne does a great job of giving me a lot of space. And we've talked about, hey, if we ever have a big moment, like it's the play-by-play guy, and then after it happens, you come in. So I go, all right, Hoffbauer, errant snap. Hoffbauer's going to have to recover and pull out a miracle right here. And he does. He rolls around, and he's near midfield, and I'm thinking, there's no way on a 2-point conversion in overtime with the band in the end zone just walled up, wall to wall, the length of the end zone, you're going to find anything. And then from your angle, you're standing on the back of the end zone, you see Bennett Jordan just wave his hand. And we couldn't see who it was from being that far away. By the way, I ditched the binoculars once I saw the errant snap, which I think was due to the loud crowd noise from the band. So we send it deep. Caden runs out, and then he heaves it, and you just kind of sit there and sit still.
Yeah.
Heaves it, looks long, and I go, we've got a man, because I see Bennett jump up for the ball. Didn't know it was Bennett. Had no idea.
Right.
Didn't even know that Wallace Jordan had caught the pass prior on the touchdown. We couldn't. I think I called it as Archie Andrews, but it's really hard to see 100 yards away. So, anyways, we get the call, and I know from broadcasting. And again, I'm not Reese Davis. I'm not on ESPN, but you cannot ruin a moment like that by calling out the wrong name.
Mm-hmm.
So I just say, "We got it. He comes away with it," and Wayne says, "He caught it, Willie." And of course, I've watched it 1,000 times since Friday night. And it was just one of those moments. So sidebar, I was next to Wayne for 4th and 31 when Jalen Milroe
We don't have to talk
heaved
about that.
prayer up. We had the Hueytown moment earlier. So Wayne and I have just seen it all together,
Yeah.
you know, all these crazy moments in football games. And we sit there and we're bear hugging each other, and we're on literally the back corner of the bleachers on the Homewood side.
Yeah.
Had there not been a fence, we probably would have fallen back and fallen over. But so much drama. And then, of course, at that point, he chimes in and we're going crazy together. Just a moment that we will remember forever, but not us really. It's for the kids and for the families, and to have a small role in that moment to add to the excitement was so special. And the offensive line did a great job. There were no penalties. Wide receivers keeping open, and Mountain Brook, who's not known for our passing game, comes up with a SportsCenter top 10 play.
Yeah, and you mentioned SportsCenter top 10. I mean, that was if you go to villagelivingonline.com, we've got a post up about just all the clips from that moment that made it, like you said, SportsCenter top 10 plays. ESPN Sunday NFL Countdown had a clip of it. Just a really cool moment. But I got a kick out of just how quick you were, William, on that call to call it the Heave 2.0, because I think so many of us in the stadium couldn't imagine a game ending like that. But just a few years ago, Mountain Brook did kind of win a game in a similar way.
So in 2019, Mountain Brook's taken on Hewitt-Trussville. This is the second year, 2025, as we talk now, that Wayne and I have called games together. Mm-hmm. So prior, it was Lee Tracy and George Palakas. And we had a play where our quarterback, Aaron Snap, throws the ball up in a region game, and Paulson Wright comes down with it in the end zone. And Lee and George, rightfully so, lose their mind, and they called it the Heave. And it was a very similar play. Long snap, run around, throw it up. Except in that play, the quarterback was running backwards, trying to avoid, Caden had an opportunity to step in and throw it in this one. But, it was the Heave 2.0. So you see that, and you go back to that moment. There are a lot of comments on social media that say, why did Wayne bring up Hewitt-Trussville? This is the Homewood game. But really, that is and that's what I love about Wayne. He's a Mountain Brook football historian. Oh, yeah. He played for Coach Yeager. He knows the program. He knows the schemes. So being able to apply a historic moment in that aspect, bringing in a nod to our predecessors on the broadcast, as well as a tremendous play in our program's history, to have a part in that and live it again 6 years later was just phenomenal.
Yeah, really cool moment. And I want to direct you to our Under the Lights YouTube channel for a full breakdown. I think I was still kind of at a loss for words when doing the post-game show, but you can find the post-game show from Week 6 on our Under the Lights YouTube channel. And the one final thing I want to touch on about that Mountain Brook Homewood game was there is something to the fact of, and I think Homewood will absolutely glean so much from this game, because this was their first game, and both coaches had talked about it going in. Homewood had not had to play full effort for 4 full quarters, and you kind of saw that down the stretch in the final moments when you make a few questionable decisions. The incomplete pass to give Mountain Brook a little more time on the clock.
5, right.
But you mentioned Mountain Brook's passing game is not known for its prolific nature, but they would go, 94 yards in 59 seconds.
And used every single one of those seconds, too.
Every one of them. And so for them to be able to score that touchdown at the end of regulation just to force overtime was incredible in and of itself. So a lot of moments that led to the big play at the end.
Yeah, that's not to be forgotten. You know, a guy like Pearson Avery, who's battled injury on the offensive line at right guard, comes back for this game, gets healthy, and he goes down on that last drive. So you're losing one of your pillars on the offensive line in that moment. And then Hoffbauer just turns into primetime Tom Brady. And he dishes it out to Colvin a couple times on an out route. Sam Smith catches a post over the middle on a 3rd down to convert the first. And then Trey Vinson goes long and makes a Randy Moss-esque catch, down the near hash on the Spartan sideline. And, Caden uses his vision, his precision, his timing, and ultimately uses his legs to get in the end zone and tie the game up. And at that moment, I watch games, Kyle, and I think about, I have a little note chart, and I've sent it to you after some games, but it's like quarter, time, score, and how we scored. And then I'll make a little note, too, if we get it on the GoPro. We didn't have the GoPro cam this week due to a variety of circumstances, but I will make note of that's going to be the play of the game, or I'm going to clip that and put it on YouTube later. So immediately Caden scrambles for that game-tying touchdown. I'm like, I got it.
Yep.
That's it. That's going to be our play, only to be outshadowed, just a few moments later with his own doing.
Yeah, for sure. No,
great time, and what a special night.
What a moment that was. And I think what you're going to find going forward is that win over Homewood is going to look more and more impressive as we kind of go down the stretch in the second half of the season. So,
Absolutely.
with that being said, it's time for Week 7. Let's go through the games that the Under the Lights team will be covering this week. We're going to start with the game of the week. There were a couple of choices, and one that I know Spartans fans probably won't love me for, but the game of the week this week is going to be Hewitt-Trussville hosting Thompson in Class 7A Region 3. This game, I think, probably is going to decide the region title when it's all said and done. Second week in a row, Thompson's coming up to Northeast Jefferson County. They played Clay last week. They get Hewitt-Trussville this week. This Hewitt-Trussville team has, I think, been the most impressive team to date so far in the state of Alabama, just with the resume that they've already put together, the circumstances they've battled, and you just keep seeing it week after week. Now, we talked a few weeks ago, starting quarterback Zach Benedict gets hurt, but freshman Jack Floyd has really stepped into that void and played incredible football. In last week's win over Pinson Valley, Jack was 13 of 15 through the air. Hardly let the ball hit the ground. We'll see. You could tell Zach is getting a little bit closer to getting back. He warmed up last week, but at the same time, I'm not sure. I don't know if they're going to kind of ease him back into action, or hey, let's not throw him right back into the fire against Thompson. So we'll see. But either way, I mean, I think Hewitt-Trussville, they'll have the home field advantage. Really looking forward to seeing what they can do, because this is a big opportunity for the Huskies.
Yeah, great selection for game of the week. Honestly, if I were biased, I'd say Mountain Brook Clay is right up there with it.
Yeah.
So maybe game of the week 1B. But Hewitt, a team, as you talked about, their ability to just exceed their opponents this year has been phenomenal. 6-0. They're outscoring their opponents by 30. I think it's 36 points a game, and they're giving up only 6.8. So that's been phenomenal. And obviously Thompson comes into this game losing at Clay last week. Clay has been Thompson's kryptonite
has.
the past 3 years, but Thompson's hungry. So when you get hot like Hewitt and then you get hungry like Thompson, it's going to make for a fiery, intense high school football Friday night matchup.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you think about, you mentioned Hewitt-Trussville's defense. I mean, you can't say enough about what Sean Talsma has done with this unit, because for the first half of Josh Floyd's tenure, it was, hey, if Hewitt can outscore you, then they're in good shape. But anytime it kind of got to a little low-scoring moment, the Huskies' defense wasn't quite able to hold up. But the last few years, that defense has been just as good as the offense, and you're really starting to see why. They got a lot of standouts on that side of the ball, too.
I want to say this, too, about Thompson when we look, and I know we're talking about Hewitt, but this is kind of my key to this game is looking at, when you look at Thompson's body of work, in 2 games where they've given up the most points, it's been Grayson and it's been Clay Chalkford, 2 very good offenses. And obviously this Hewitt team outscoring opponents by 30, another really good offensive team. So Thompson has either put up really big numbers or in terms of defensive scoring allowed. So what version of the Thompson defense is going to show up, and is Hewitt going to be able to maintain that success? Obviously, that Thompson defense versus Hewitt offense is going to kind of be the focal point.
Yeah, and we'll use that topic to kind of bridge that game to the next one when talking about Clay Chalkville, because Clay Chalkville is coming to Mountain Brook for a huge region game. This game has always, the last several years, has been so compelling because it's the ultimate clash of styles. And when you look at this Clay Chalkville team, the Clay Chalkville-Thompson game is a tale of two halves. Thompson really controlled much of the first half of that game against Clay, but all it took was a defensive touchdown early in the third quarter from Clay Chalkville. Colton McIntyre scoops up the loose ball, runs down the sidelines for the score, and it really changed the game. And you look at plays like that really flip the tide of a game, and you've seen that so much in this Clay Chalkville-Mountain Brook rivalry. I mean, Clay Chalkville, explosive, so many athletes all over the field, and you clash that with a Mountain Brook team that athletically is not going to be on the same level as Clay Chalkville, but physicality, scheme-wise, they're such a solid football team, and they have always made this matchup so tough on Clay Chalkville.
Yeah, you look at guys like Aaron Fry, Corey Barber, you know the names. They're going to make highlight plays, and they're going to be explosive, but how do you limit those explosive plays? And you look at last year's game, again, not everything translates year to year, but these guys were here last year making plays. In a 21-14 game, where Mountain Brook was knocking on the door to tie the ball game at Clay Chalkville and simply ran out of time. Yeah. Mountain Brook knows and has a certain scheme where they can say, all right, we can defensively do what we need to do. And they're going to depend on their anchors, and I'm going to call them Miller squared. Miller Lee and Miller Crumpton both had 8 tackles last week for the Spartans. And so You obviously Lawson McKnight out for the year. You're losing one of your safeties, but Gaines Drew stepped up, had 7 or 8 tackles last week for the Spartans. And so schematically, it's next man up. And you don't really look at what they do as opposed to what you do. So it's going to be Mountain Brook making sure they can fill gaps, be in the right spot at the right time, and limit explosive plays, because we've seen Clay do that all year long. And certainly they're going to bring that potent offense to Spartan Stadium on Friday night. Yeah,
and you mentioned somebody's got to cover Corey Barber. I don't know who, but Corey Barber, if you hadn't seen last week's play, I mean, a one-handed grab, tiptoeing down the sideline in the end zone to, score the game-winning touchdown for the Cougars. He was such a force at Spain Park last year, back at Clay Chalkwell this year, and he has elevated that Clay Chalkwell offense to a different level with that game-changing ability on the outside.
Yeah, and I remember Mountain Brook getting a lot of pressure in the backfield last year and bringing Fry down a couple of times. But whether it's Hosford Roberts, whether it's LG Williams, whether it's Hayes Wendell, however the assignments and the matchups are going to line up for this Mountain Brook secondary, they're going to have their hands full with Corey Barber and an offense that averages 47 points a game.
Yeah, I agree. Should be a super compelling game. Kind of, I guess, the runner-up for this week's Under the Lights game of the week. But
hey, I'll be there. You'll be at the Hewitt game. I'll be at the Mountain Brook game. We'll have a lot of great coverage.
You can report back. Absolutely. Yep. All right. So we've talked a lot about Mountain Brook football so far, and that leads us to talking about Gun Dermatology. You've known about them for a long time in the Mountain Brook community. They've got 2 locations. All of your skincare needs, they will take care of you over at Gun Dermatology. All right. A couple of other Class 7A Region 3 games I want to hit on. Hoover paying a visit to Oak Mountain. Just on its own, Hoover's win over Parker last week looks really impressive. But I don't know what happened in the fourth quarter. I mean, Hoover was blowing out the defending 6A state champs, and Parker scored 29 points in the fourth quarter, really made Hoover sweat it out at the end. But nonetheless, the Bucks kind of take a deep breath. They just notched a really impressive win on their schedule, and now they go play at Oak Mountain at Herdmont Park. Oak Mountain had their bye week last week. They're trying to be competitive in the second half of the season. But it looks like Hoover, this is a great opportunity for them to kind of build on the success of last week.
Yeah, a lot of Alabama fans might hate me for this. This is the weekend that Vanderbilt beat Alabama last year. And Hoover coming off a big win at Parker, emotional win. Alabama did the same thing against Georgia. So not to equate the two, but when Hoover looks at their schedule, they can't overlook Oak Mountain. They can't overlook Tuscaloosa County. They have got to reset and be in the right mindset. And, if they do however they prepared for Parker last week, if you do that, you should be able to have success.
Yeah, and when you start looking ahead at the 7A Region 3 playoff picture, and I know that, on the podcast we'll be covering that a lot more as the playoff picture becomes a little more clear down the stretch, but these are games that Hoover's got to have, and you're looking at some games, toward the end of the season that are really going to be important in terms of a playoff berth.
One more thing, too, about Hoover, the Bucks, this is their 3rd straight road game. And so when you think about scheduling, Mountain Brook is off the heels of 3 straight road games as well. That 3rd one's tough.
Yeah.
And obviously this is going to be the game. I mean, in 7A Region 3, it's every week is the game, but this is the next game for Oak Mountain, playing it at home, and they're going to give the Bucks everything they have. So, that weariness and fatigue of your road, your tenure on the road really in 3 games might be a negative effect for the Bucks. We'll see what happens. They took care of business at Parker last week.
And the scary thing, if Hoover plays 4 straight quarters, I know Mountain Brook dealt with this a lot last year. If Hoover can ever put 4 quarters together and play really well up to their potential, they're scary. The problem is they've only been able to do it at 2 3/4 spurts at a time. But if they start to put that consistency together, watch out for the Bucks in the second half of the season. And when we talk about Hoover football, we want to tell you about South Lake Orthopedics, less pain, more living. South Lake Orthopedics sponsoring our Hoover football coverage this year. All right, another one in 7A Region 3, Vestavia Hills hosting Prattville. Vestavia's got to win this one because that game against Hoover in a few weeks down the line is going to be really important. And Vestavia needs to get this region stretch started off with a win against a Prattville team that has proven certainly capable. But Vestavia, hopefully, coming off the open week last week, they've had a couple of weeks to try to get healthy, or at least a little more healthy. They were so beat up in the first few games of the year. But if they can get a few guys healthy, hopefully get Charlie Taft back at quarterback, Vestavia is the favorite on paper, but you got to go out and play them.
Yeah, Vestavia won the game last year 49-14 against Prattville, and I think this game is really a jostling for – you're going to look back in 5 or 6 weeks' time and think, the winner of this game is catching a spot in the playoffs, right?
Mhm.
And whether it's home or away, 1, 2, 3, 4 in 7A Region 3, this is a game right now that if you're Vestavia, you've got to have it. And
Yep.
you can't let up, and you can't let last year's result impede on your preparation and your focus for this week. We saw that with Mountain Brook against Pell City a couple weeks ago, and fell by the wayside. So Vestavia is going to be it's going to be paramount that they lock in and get ready for this game and treat it as if it were a Hoover or a Thompson or any of those other big wigs. But as you said, Prattville certainly capable as they jostle for a playoff spot.
Yeah, 7A Region 3 going to be really compelling as we get down the stretch, and that starts this week. Let's drop down to 6A for a few games. Homewood, the team that we saw last week, has to find a way to pick itself off the mat after that crazy, disappointing, heartbreaking loss last week. But they go to Gardendale. This is a Gardendale team that has struggled a little bit. Year one, new coach, but Homewood, if they can play like they did the first five weeks plus much of that Mountain Brook game, they should be okay here. They've got this game. They'll get an open date next week, and that region title game against Parker is looming.
Yeah, this Homewood team, coming into the game against Mountain Brook last week, you really wondered, all right, they hadn't been tested to the level that they played Mountain Brook, but they are as good as advertised in terms of putting up points and production, and really gave Mountain Brook everything they could. They led. Mountain Brook didn't lead till the very end of the game,
Right.
So obviously Homewood is a talented, really good team, but it is all about how you respond, and you can learn more from a loss than you can from a win. That's the case most of the time, and so a team that is as good as advertised, I'm looking forward to see how Homewood responds, and I certainly think they will take care of Gardendale, but I don't want to put any rat poison out there. I feel good about the Patriots' chances this Friday night.
Yeah, I think there's so much to be learned from that game for Homewood, and if they learn those lessons, they'll keep ascending as they go. And I mean, Coach Yeager after the game he's always really complimentary of other teams, but especially last Friday, he could tell Homewood's a really good football team.
And that's not to tease anything, but I think that you think about the game, you think about the way that ended, not to keep harping on it, but that is one of those where I can't say for certain and know it to be a fact, but I think it would be a shame if Mountain Brook and Homewood didn't play in the future. We've got a scheduled turnover coming up. So not speaking professionally on behalf of Mountain Brook or anything, but just as a fan, would love to see Mountain Brook and Homewood keep lacing it up in the future years.
Yeah, you never know. They might be back in the same region pretty soon. All right, when we talk about Homewood football, we want to direct you to our friends over at The Edge, a vibrant space for food, fun, and community in Homewood, suitable for the whole family. They've got live events each week, an outdoor food hall. So much fun for the entire family. It's right off Green Springs. You can visit their website at theedgehomewood.com. All right, 6A Region 3, we've got a couple of teams over in that region. Spain Park hosting Pelham on Friday night. The Jags coming off another really good 7A win over James Clemens. And I'm just always so impressed that even when it seemed Spain Park's roster, honestly, just isn't quite what it was last year when they were 12-0 rolling into the 6A quarterfinals. But they just don't ever stop improving under Tim Vakakis. At his core, Coach Vakakis is just a competitor, a fighter. He's just going to keep getting better with this team every single week. This Pelham team has gotten a lot better, but so has this Spain Park team. Yeah. And they keep building. And last week, it was the coming out party for that defense. That defense has just kind of been in the background as Brock Bradley and offense just have gone nuts the last several years. But that defense, to only allow 7 points to a 7A team like James Clemens last week, really impressive.
Yeah, I look at Spain Park, and obviously having called Mountain Brook games and watching Mountain Brook each week, I don't have time to watch a ton of film, especially teams that aren't in our region. But just looking at their schedule, Kyle, they've gone win, loss, win, loss, win. And so, when you think about that, can they break that streak? Because you would look at that and say, well, they're due for a loss, but they're at home. So it's a great opportunity against a really quality team in Pelham, who is hot in 3 straight wins after 2 losses to start the season, to kind of cut that heads or tails win-loss and get back on the right side of things and stay on the right side of things.
Yeah, this Spain Park team is they're not afraid of a challenge. They've already played 3 7A teams. That's almost as many as most 7A teams have played at this point of the year. So we'll see how that one goes on Friday night. Another game in that region, Chelsea traveling to Chilton County. If Chelsea wants a shot at the playoffs this year, they've got to win this one. This is the back half of their schedule in the region is brutal. They got to win this one at Chilton County and have some other things go their way. But I was impressed by what I saw for them against Paul Bryant last week. They just need to run, and run some more. Chase Malone last week, 195 yards and 4 scores. Morgan Barnes, fantastic. Even Adam Wheeler, who's more of like a fullback type guy, he's been logging carries, doing a great job. This Chelsea running game is so stinking good, and if they can just keep mowing people down, like they've got a chance to sneak into the playoffs again.
The key there is pregame. Don't get distracted and stop at Peach Park. Focus on what you got to do, win the game at Chilton County, and see if you can take care of business.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so a couple of more games on the docket for Week 7. A few more in 5A. On Thursday night, I'm going to be out at this one. John Carroll kind of gets the attention of the town. They're going to Winona, and this is kind of a similar spot what we just talked about with Chelsea. Like, if you kind of look at on paper, maybe John Carroll's playoff chances in 5A Region 5 are not as great as they were a few weeks ago, but this Winona team is certainly not a game that they can just throw away. Like, John Carroll has every right to believe that they have a chance in this game. This Winona team has been all right this year, just like John Carroll. Like, there have been moments of greatness, moments where you wish you would have played better. So, John Carroll on Thursday night, this is the game. If they want a shot at that playoff marker, they got to win this one.
Momentum is key in high school sports, and especially high school football. And this is kind of that turnkey point for this John Carroll program. If they can get momentum, got Briarwood coming up the following week. This is where they really need to kind of hit their stride and see if they can carry, a good mojo going into October.
Yep, and our Cavaliers football coverage this year brought to you by Barlow Wealth Advisory Group. They'll help you out. They've got a lot of options that you may not know about that are very diverse for a firm like theirs. So check them out, barlow-wag.com. That's Barlow Wealth Advisory Group, bringing you our John Carroll coverage this fall. And one last game on Friday night in that same region, Briarwood hosting Corner. We talked so much about how Briarwood has just had a great 3-week stretch. They've won 3 in a row, 3-0 in region play. It was looking so good for 2.5 quarters against Leeds, and then it just fell apart. Leeds gets 2 touchdowns and a safety to win 29-28. The good thing for Briarwood is it doesn't count in the region standings, but the negative is, like, man, those kind of losses, they really sting when you kind of dominated the game up to that point.
Yeah, and we all know Coach Jerry Hood's a legend in Alabama high school football, and obviously that was huge for them to get that. But Briarwood, this is a winnable game for the Lions. They won this contest last year 31-6, and I've said multiple times already on this show that it doesn't necessarily translate year over year, but you have that confidence, and you're seeing a lot of those guys again in this game. And so this is a very winnable game, I will say, for Briarwood, and something that we know that they need moving forward. They need this win to keep propelling themselves and going the direction they want to go for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I've been really impressed with Briarwood's 2 quarterback tandem. Jamison Barnes and Charles Dedman, they've really done a great job of seamlessly running the offense with the 2 of those guys. Dedman does most of the throwing. Barnes does a lot of the running, but they've been really effective the last month or so of doing so. So those are the games we've got on the schedule this week. I want to remind you that the Under the Lights podcast and all of our coverage this season is presented by KEYSYS, KEYSYS.io, AI solutions tailored to your business. William, Week 7's here. Do you think we get any big-time viral moments again this week?
We'll see. I'm not going to make this about me, but it's my birthday Friday night, and nothing would be better than a Spartan win over Clay Chalkville. So we've gone viral. We've had 2 overtime wins. I'd love to bring the heart rate down a little bit and have a game that would be peaceful. I don't think there's going to be a peaceful contest. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be 2 really good teams going head to head in Spartan Stadium. But great lineups all the way across Metro Birmingham. Once again, Kyle, thank you for having me on. And a big thanks to all those people who turned you down to let me come on to the show twice in one season. But really looking forward to the rest of the season this weekend as well. And I got to give Go Spartans. And one more thank you for all that you do for the top tier high school football coverage in Central Alabama. And later this week, you can check out William Galloway's cinematic reenactment of the viral 2-point play. He's going to do all the roles. I'm going to do it at midfield in Spartan Stadium. I'm going to dress up as a Spartan football player, and maybe I'll be Caden Hoffbauer or Bennett Jordan for Halloween later this month. All right, well, we'll see if that ever makes an appearance on the Under the Lights podcast presented by KEYSYS. But as for this week's episode, we appreciate your support and watching. The link is in the description for how you can follow along with all the things Under the Lights. And we'll see you on Friday night.